known as Rupanugas. Yes, we are followers of the Bhagavad Gita, Krishna and the Bhagavad Gita. We are followers of Sri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and followers of Prabhupada. Sometimes devotees also describe as Prabhupada Anugas. As followers of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, we are specifically Rupanugas. That is, followers of Rupa Goswami. Why? Because Rupa Goswami is the one who reveals Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's mind and heart to us. That is a big claim, to reveal Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's mind. But that's how we glorify him. The pranam mantra for Rupa Goswami is, we can say it together, Shri Chaitanya Manovistam Stapitam Yena Bhutale Svayam Rupa Kada Mahyam Dadati Sapadantikam. O most munificent, I offer my respectful obeisances unto Rupa Goswami, who reveals the mind of Shri Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. Shri Chaitanya Mano Vishta. So there is an incident in the Chaitanya Charitamrita which gives us an exemplification of how Rupa Goswami reveals Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's mind. I say this as an incident and exemplification because Rupa Goswami is revealing Mahaprabhu's mind in much more profound ways even than this story that I'll share momentarily. But this story, this incident, it just gives us a window into this insight of how Rupa Goswami is revealing Mahaprabhu's mind. Now, let's just pause before we go into discussing this incident, just to reflect how complex Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is. Of all the incarnations, he is described as most merciful or munificent. Namo Mahavaranyaya Krishna Prema Pradayate Krishnaya Krishna Chaitanya Namne Goratvishé Namaha. He is Krishna himself, but he's assumed the golden complexion of Srimati Radharani, and he's distributing widely love for Krishna. Because he's distributing this love for himself, therefore he's most munificent. Other incarnations are killing demons, chastising demons, blessing devotees, Chaitanya, and maybe liberating devotees. But Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is giving this greatest treasure of pure love. Not only he's giving this treasure of love in the mood of the residents of Sri Vrindavan Dham. So he's giving the highest treasure. He's in the mood of a devotee. He's covered by the complexion of Sri Radha. This is all very, very esoteric, very complex. He's in this, he's incarnated this way to try to understand the nature of his own love, his own sweetness, and the joy that Sri Radha or his devotee experiences in loving him. Questions that God himself grapples with, he's trying to explore by assuming the bhavana, the mood, and the duty, the complexion of his dearest devotee. But it's Rupa. It is Rupa who is able to reveal this to us. And so that is a great claim, or a great glorification, epithet, to say someone is Sri Chaitanya Manovishta is the highest praise. So this incident which gives us a window into how Rupa Goswami is revealing Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's mind and heart as he explores love of Godhead in the mood of Srimati Radharani. There is a story told of how when Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was dancing during the Rath Yatra festival in Jagannath Puri, he was singing a song. And the issue with this song is that it was a secular love song. It was a Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is a sannyasi. He's in this holy event of Rath Yatra before the chariot of Lord Jagannath, and he's dancing ecstatically, singing this love song, a secular love song. If you can imagine Rath Yatra down Fifth Avenue here in New York, if one of the sannyasis were to sing, I don't know, a song by Taylor Swift, she has many love songs, we would all be quite perplexed. What is happening with Maharaj? What is going on here? So the devotees were perplexed. What is Chaitanya Mahaprabhu singing? Why is he not singing Govinda Jaya Jaya Gopala Jaya, Jai Jagannath, Jai Jagannath? Why is he not singing the Maha Mantra? What is this love song that he's singing? Ya ko mara hara sa eva hi varas ta eva chitrakshapas te kon milita malati saurabhya proda kadambani la sa vamsi tatapi tatra saurata vyapada lila vido reva rodhasi vetasi tarutale cheta samut kantate. This is the song he was singing. That very personality who stole away my heart during my youth is now again my master. These are the same moonlit nights in the month of Chaitra. The same fragrance of malati flowers is there, and the same sweet breezes are blowing from the Kadamba forest. In our intimate relationship, I'm the same lover, yet still my mind is not happy here. I'm eager to go back to that place on the bank of the Reva, under the Vetasi tree. That is my desire. So no one understood the meaning of this song that Chaitanya was singing during the Rath Yatra festival, save and except a few of his most intimate and confidential associates, like Swarup Damodar Goswami, who was his secretary, Ramananda Rai, his confidant in discussing Bhagavatam and exploring rasa. The next day, after the Rath Yatra, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu went to visit Haridas Thakur. He did this, it was his routine. He would rise, he would bathe, and then go to the Jagannath temple to have darshan of Jagannath, standing behind the Guru Dastanda. And then he would go and visit every day Haridas Thakur. Haridas Thakur couldn't enter the temple because of his Muslim birth, his Muslim background, and very strict, even today, caste-conscious society. Haridas was excluded from entering the temple, just as we Western devotees are also excluded from entering the temple to this day. And Rupa and Sanatan, they had worked for the Muslim administration of Nawab Hussain Shah, who was the ruler of Bengal. Rupa had been his treasurer and Sanatan his prime minister. So very highly placed officials in that government. And because of that association, they had Muslim names, Nabir Kash, Shakara Malik. They spoke Persian and Urdu. They were very adept in all the etiquettes of um, a Mughal/Muslim court, a Persian style court. And that's the sphere that they operated in, although they also kept the association in their own home of Brahmanas and Vaishnavas and discussed Bhagavatam. But in terms of their work life, they were working in an environment that was not Vaishnava, not Brahminical. And because of this, they too couldn't enter or didn't enter. Let's not say couldn't, they wouldn't enter the Jagannath temple, not to disturb the minds of those um, who were caste conscious in that way. And so Rupa Goswami, he lived with Haridas Thakur when he would visit Jagannath Puri. Like you might have some friend that you stay with when you visit Vrindavan or Mayapur. Maybe there's a guest house where you like to stay, you have some relationship. So Rupa Goswami, he would always stay with Haridas Thakur at just near to the sea, between the sea and the Jagannath temple, a place called Siddhabakul, a garden that Chaitanya Mahaprabhu actually arranged for Haridas Thakur. So Haridas stayed at that distance, Rupa Goswami stayed with him, and Rupa Goswami, he had been at the Rath Yatra. He had heard Lord Chaitanya's song, and he had written another verse and pushed it into the thatch of Haridas Thakur's house. So he had the hut where he stayed had a grass or thatch roof, as you'll see in the villages of Bengal and Orissa even today. And so Rupa, he wrote a verse on a palm leaf and pushed it into the thatch, and then went away to bathe in the sea. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu came to visit Haridas. As he was entering the hut, he saw something stuck inside the thatch of the roof. So he pulled at it, and it was a palm leaf with something written on it. So he took that palm leaf and read it. And this is what he read. Priya so yam Krishna sahachari kurukshetra militas tatam sa radha tad idam ubhayo sangamasukam tatyapyanta helon madhura murli panchama juse mano me kalindi pulina vipinaya uyati. So it's a verse written in the voice of Srimati Radharani. My dear friend, she's speaking to Lalita or Vishaka. Now I have met my very old friend Krishna on the field of Kurukshetra. I am the same Radharani, and now, after a long time, we are meeting together. It is very pleasant, but still, I would like to go to the bank of the Yamuna, beneath the trees of the Kadamba forest. I wish to hear the vibration of his sweet flute playing the fifth note within that forest of Vrindavan. When Chaitanya Mahaprabhu read this verse, his hair stood on end. Tears came to his eyes. There was a quiver in his heart. he understood that this verse is a commentary or a transposition of the song that he had sung. The same verse had been rewritten, but now its meaning revealed. When Chaitanya Mahaprabhu sung that popular verse, that secular love song, he was singing in the mood of Sri Radha, and he was in the sentiment of Radha meeting Krishna at Kurukshetra after a long time. In the later half of the 10th canto of the Bhagavatam, you have this meeting at Kurukshetra. It's covered over many, many chapters, maybe 6 chapters dedicated to discussing this Kurukshetra, not for the war, but Kurukshetra for when the Yadus, Krishna and the Yadus had gone there during the solar eclipse. And the Brajbasis had also gone there, hearing that Krishna would be going to Kurukshetra with the Yadus. They had also taken their bullock carts and loaded it up with gifts from their farms, from the village. And so while the Yadus were arriving, Krishna and the Yadus were arriving in magnificent chariots that are described as moving like clouds across India as they made their way to Kurukshetra with marching soldiers and late queens carried in palanquins, horses, elephants. That's how the Yadus traveled to Kurukshetra. And the Brajbasis in their bullock carts with their buffalo horns and flutes, they're also making their journey excited to see Krishna. And so when Krishna and the gopis, Srimati Radharani, finally meet, it's a meeting of great anticipation and excitement in the heart of the gopis. And yet when they see Krishna as a king, not wearing a turban with a peacock feather, but a crown, not holding a flute, but holding a sword and a club and with bows and arrows, not holding the cowherd stick and rope and buffalo horn, but these different weapons of war, not surrounded by cows and playful cowherd boys, but by soldiers and horses. And now then there is a sense of distance in their heart. There is union, and at the same time there's separation. Sambhog Vipralamba. And so the feeling is most intense in Kurukshetra. Union and separation at one and the same time. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's meditating on this during the Rath Yatra, pulling Jagannath's chariot from the Jagannath temple. In Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's mind, that great temple, the magnificent temple in Puri is Dvaraka, the Yadu capital. And he's pulling Jagannath's chariot to the garden of Gundicha. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is meditating on that as Sri Vrindavan Dham. And he is Sri Radha with the other gopis, pulling that chariot. Let's get Krishna back to Vrindavan. Let's get Krishna home. Because although we're meeting here at Kurukshetra, although I'm the same Radha and he's the same Krishna, my heart is not satisfied. My heart is not peaceful. I long to return to the bank of the Yamuna under the Kadamba trees and to hear Krishna play his flute, the 5th note, which is the flute among instruments is the most, it is described as being most romantic. And then among the notes in the scale, then the 5th note, G, is also said to evoke feelings of longing and love in the heart. So when Chaitanya Mahaprabhu read this verse, he asked, "Who has understood my mind?" That was the question. He found the verse in the thatch, and he reads it. He feels ecstatic symptoms, and he turns, "Who has understood my mind? Who has written this verse?" And he was told it was written by Rupa Goswami. Chaitanya Mahaprabhu was so pleased. He met with Rupa Goswami, and he instructed him to write Bhakti Shastras, to write transcendental literature on bhakti, on devotional service, love for Krishna. Rupa Goswami, under Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's instruction, he started initially writing a play about Radha and Krishna's pastimes. So there's something important here to understand. That is that love, prema, it's how do you convey it? How do you write about it? How do you write about love in a way that's not too cerebral, academic? When we try to analyze a thing too much, we can kill it. Yeah? Paralysis by analysis, or operation successful, but the patient is dead. So when it comes to love, to try to analyze it academically, love of God, how do you explain it? Difficult to explain, but there is something of poetry and art and music that is able to convey feelings and sentiments that words can't quite capture or describe. And so poetry has a way of awakening within the heart a sense of love and longing and wonder and awe. And so Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, he's relishing prema, love for Krishna, through poetry. And he instructs Rupa Goswami to write a play, theater, to try to convey this prema, this love. And so Rupa, he writes a play about Krishna's pastimes. And in a dream, he has an instruction from Satyabhama. The play should be divided: Vrindavan pastimes and Dwarka pastimes. And Chaitanya Mahaprabhu confirms this to him. Yes, let your play be in two parts. And so they are Vidagdha Madhava and Lalita Madhava. Rupa Goswami, of course, these two plays are not the only works of Rupa Goswami. He's written many, many works where he's revealing Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's heart, revealing this love for God through literature. Specifically to that play, there is an incident where in Jagannath Puri, Mahaprabhu asks Rupa to share his play with his most intimate associates. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu brings Ramananda Rai, Sri Damodara Goswami together, and they say to Rupa, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu says to Rupa, read from your manuscript. And so Rupa reads some of the first verses. And then these aesthetes, rasikas, Bhagavatam says, Pibata Bhagavatam rasamalayam maho aho rasika bhuvi bhavuka. Oh, bhavukas, oh, expert people, oh, rasikas, oh, you connoisseurs or aesthetes of the aesthetic science, the aesthetic sentiments, the arts. relish this Srimad Bhagavatam, which is the mature, ripened fruit of the tree of Vedic literature. It is arisen, or it is emanated from the mouth of Sukha, and therefore what was already sweet has become sweeter still. So Chaitanya Mahaprabhu is relishing Bhagavatam with Rai Ramananda, with Sir Damodar Goswami. They have this circle of intimate associates who are relishing this love for Krishna. And they bring Rupa in and they say, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu says, read from your play. And so he reads some verses, and Chaitanya Mahaprabhu and his intimate circle, they become ecstatic. And Chaitanya Mahaprabhu reads the manuscript of himself and glorifies Rupa Goswami's handwriting, which he said is like rows of pearls. So that's also beautiful. Not only is what Rupa Goswami writing beautiful, but also how he's writing is very beautiful. His handwriting itself is bringing pleasure to Chaitanya Mahaprabhu. So Lalita Madhava and Vidagdha Madhava, these are two, Vidagdha Madhava about Vrindavan, Lalita Madhava about Dwarka. These are two of Rupa Goswami's plays. He has written Laghu Bhagavatamrita, which is a summary study of the Bhagavatam, the essence of the Bhagavatam given in this work, Laghu Bhagavatamrita. There's also Stavamala, a flower garland of prayers, like beautiful poetry, glorifying Krishna. Dana Keli Komedi, another play. So this Lalita Madhava and Vidagdha Madhava, they are full of viraha, full of separation. And there's a story that when Rupa Goswami gave his manuscript for Vidagdha Madhava to Raghunath Das Goswami to read, Raghunath Das Goswami was so overwhelmed by feelings of separation that he wasn't able to move or speak or do anything. He was devastated by that play. And so the story is that Rupa Goswami wrote another play, Dan Keli Comedy, which is a comedy, Krishna's tax collecting pastimes, and gave that to Raghunath, and that brought him back. It lightened his mood, brought him back, that he was able to function in the world again. Mathura Mahatmya is all of the Vrindavan Parikrama guides basically come back to Mathura Mahatmya. It's a compilation of verses glorifying Vrindavan, the Braj Mandala. Then there's Uddhava Sandesh. It's a short work, very, very beautiful. It's written in the genre of this Sandesh genre, messenger, like Hamsaduta of Kalidas, a message sent through a cloud. So Rupa Goswami takes the section of the Bhagavatam where Krishna is sending Uddhava to Vrindavan, and he explores the intensity of that pastime by writing a book, how Krishna is feeling separation from the Brajbasis, how he calls his intimate friend Uddhava and sends him to Vrindavan, describes to him the journey that he'll take to reach Vrindavan from Mathura, and then the message and how he's to convey the message. Very, very beautiful. Most important for us of all of Rupa Goswami's writings is Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu. Prabhupada has given us a summary study of the Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu. He calls it the science of devotional service. Again, science and aesthetics, or science and art or poetry, do they fit together? But Rupa Goswami, under Lord Chaitanya's direction, he gives us an analysis, or like, let's say, the anatomy of prema, the anatomy of love of God in this work. So it has 4 divisions. They're called 4 directions, or banks, actually. It's the ocean. So Bhakti Rasamrita is the ocean of the nectar of devotion. And there are 4 shores of this ocean. The eastern ocean gives the foundations of bhakti. So we get definition of bhakti, the characteristics of bhakti, and the distinctions between sadhana bhakti, means Vaidhi sadhana, and Raganuga sadhana, and then bhava bhakti and prema bhakti. So these like 3 different divisions: sadhana, bhava, and prema. The southern division, the southern shore, is about the practice of bhakti. 64 limbs of devotion, and he gives specific emphasis to the 5: sadhusanga, nam kirtan, bhagavat shravan, naturavas, murti sevana. That's serving devotees, hearing the Bhagavatam, chanting the holy name, residing in Mathura, and serving the deity. The Western division is where he starts to explain Bhava Bhakti, means love for Krishna with emotion, with sentiment, with love. And then the Northern division is Prema Bhakti. So I would like to just spend another, we're coming to time. We are over time almost. I'd just like to spend a couple more minutes exploring this framework of Bhava Bhakti. We talk about love, and we talk about rasa or sentiment or feeling for Krishna. Generally, when we talk about rasa among our community, we say the 5 rasas. And that's one aspect of Bhava Bhakti. It's the way Rupa Goswami explains Bhava Bhakti and how Lord Chaitanya taught it to him in the Chaitanya Charitamrita. Madhya, you have Chaitanya Mahaprabhu instructing Rupa Goswami about Bhava Bhakti, Prema Bhakti in Varanasi. And so rasa has 5 aspects. And I remember Tamal Krishna Maharaj once explaining in a conversation, or Tamal Krishna Maharaj and Arjuna Maharaj now having a conversation. And Tamal Krishna Maharaj was quoting Chaitanya Mahaprabhu from Chaitanya Charitamrita, and he said, rasa, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu explains, is like milk, sugar candy, rice, camphor, and pepper. So you put these 5 things, they're all like so different. Pepper and camphor and sugar, and they're very, very different. It says, but you combine them and you get an incredible, delicious dish. And so that's how Chaitanya Mahaprabhu explained prema, or the sentiment of bhava. These 5 elements, they represent 5 bhavas that come together to create rasa. So let's just explore a little more. So the 5 ingredients of bhava are the permanent relationship. That's what we call the rasas, the permanent relationship, stay bhava. What's the permanent relationship? Your permanent relationship with Krishna could be in servitude, in friendship, in parental love, or in conjugal love. Stay bhava. Now, what happens is, based on your relationship, different things about Krishna are going to be a vibhav, or a trigger, arousing trigger. Krishna's qualities, how cute he is, or how handsome he is, or how he plays his flute, based on your permanent relationship. If you're in parental love, when you see his cute butter footprints, that's going to be your rousing trigger. If you're a cowherd girl and you hear the fifth note of the flute, that's going to be the vibhav, the rousing trigger for you. And what happens is it gives rise to something in the heart. Something shifts in the heart. There's an emotional burst in the heart called anubhav. And this manifests as you wanting to do something. Go and find Krishna. Run to the bank of the Yamuna River to be with him, to see Krishna, to be in his presence. If you're in Dasiras, that anubhav might be, I want to offer my obeisances. I want to offer 100 obeisances. If you're in parental love, maybe it's you want to just pick Krishna up and hold him tight, give him a big cuddle. And so then that manifests from anubhav, you get sattvika bhav. Something happens in the body as ecstatic symptoms. Tears. So the gopis are rushing to see Krishna, but they see him and tears come to the eyes and they can't see him anymore. Or or the devotee wants to offer 100 obeisances and he becomes stunned. The sattvika bhav is stamba for him, and he only gets 2 obeisances and he can't complete 100. So sattvika bhav are these transformations in the body. Vyabhichari is the fifth element, where because I can't see Krishna, what am I feeling now? Viraha. Because I can't complete my 100 obeisances, what am I feeling now? Despondency. So this is the mix of sentiment, of bhava, that is creating bhakti ras, that Rupa Goswami describes as prema bhakti in the Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, with all kinds of examples from Shastra, mainly Bhagavatam, but other poets as well, mainly from different poets, Bhagavatam and different poets, to explain or to give examples of how these different elements are coming together in prema bhakti ras. And so as the person who reveals all of this and explains all of this, the heart of Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, then we are all Rupanugas. We are followers of Rupa Goswami. We practice devotional service under his guidance, under his direction. Of course, under Prabhupada's guidance, but we receive Rupa Goswami from Prabhupada, and Prabhupada is very much in the line of Sri Rupa. After Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, there were different ideas about who Chaitanya was and how to worship him. That's another discussion. Some saw him as Gaur Narayan. He's God. You worship him as the Supreme Lord. Some saw him as there's a nice word here, nice name. But they worshipped him as Gaur Nagaris. So they saw him, Nimai Pandit, as the handsome Brahmana prince of Navadvip, and they saw him themselves as his Nagaris, Brahmana girls who have an affection for him, as the gopis have an affection for Krishna and Vrindavan. There were those that Shaki Beki, that saw Krishna, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu as Radha, and they are his girlfriends. Not his, her girlfriends, Radha. So they saw Mahaprabhu as Radha, and they're her girlfriends. Rupa Goswami teaches us to see Chaitanya Mahaprabhu as the combined incarnation, Radha and Krishna. He's serving in the mood of Rupa Manjari as a maidservant. But what is it? Seva Sadaka Rupena, externally, you live as a as you do your sadhana internally, and there might be over time a revelation and a realization of one's inner sentiment and relationship. I'll conclude here. Rupa Goswami's pastimes and glories and contributions are most wonderful and unlimited. We've attempted to glorify some of them, but we also recognize that we are quite over time. And we'll conclude for any comments or questions. Krishna Kumari.
Hi, Krishna. I was thinking about this all week, actually. Thank you for class.
Hare Krishna.
For time, trying to be quick. If Sri Rupa Manjari, here with Radha, is aware of Rupa Goswami, and if Rupa Goswami is also aware of what's happening in that moment with the gopis and Radha.
Okay. Yeah, thank you for that. They'll be aware as much as it's favorable to the pastime. But sometimes that knowledge or awareness of these other things just it will be incompatible for the pastime. And so therefore the Lila Shakti arranges for that awareness to be taken away. And so then this causes, Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur explores this. And he says this will give rise to some discomfort in the heart of us who are praying to Rupa Goswami and Rupa Manjari and Radha and Krishna. And we're saying, we hope you're aware enough that you'll hear our prayers. But then we don't want to interrupt your pastime either. As you have, Radha, Krishna is unaware of his mugdata, he's forgotten his divinity. And he's become the servant of the residents of Vrindavan, swept up by their love. And so then Vishwanath Chakravarti Thakur concludes by saying, dear Krishna, dear Radha, please be aware. I know that you can do the impossible. And so by your own arrangement, by your own Lila Shakti, let my prayers be heard by you, not by Paramatma or any other manifestation of Godhead who is all aware. Let it be heard by you. At the same time, let us not disturb your pastimes, but please do reciprocate with our lovingness sentiment as we call out to you and beg for your mercy. So Vrindavan Lila, Gaur Lila, they're happening simultaneously. They are one and the same, and yet there is a distinction as well. And so there is something said by our acharyas that we dive into the ocean of Gaur Lila and surface in the pastimes of Braj Lila, of Radha and Krishna. They are the same and yet also distinct, and they are aware as much as it is favorable for the pastime, and at the same time, they can hear your prayers and reciprocate with your prayers. Thank you. Jai Shri Shri Radha Mulidara Shri Gaurachandra Ki Jai.
Thank you, Shri Prahlad Prabhu. Dear devotees, it's darshan time. Please turn on your camera if possible. Thank you very much. Temple room, I think we lost the video.
Curtain's not open yet.
Okay. Sorry.
Well, can you hold this? Can you hold it? No. Please bless us, the pure devotees of children of the Be blessed, the eternal servant, pure devotees of the Lord. Got it.
Thank you, Adipusha Prabhu, for facilitating the darshan. We hope you can hear us. Okay, Shri Prahlad Prabhu, do you have a few minutes to stay over time with us?
I do.
A question. We talk about this extreme feelings that the devotees of Krishna have for him, and they come up with beautiful poetry and philosophy. But what about us? What if we feel numb? For example, I get excited when something good happens materially, or I get worried extremely if something bad happens, materially speaking. But I don't have this extent of those feelings when it comes to spiritual life. I pick up my japa beads and sometimes I'm not excited. Mm. Or when I read the Leela about the demon, for example, and I don't feel worried for Krishna. I don't roll on the ground. How do I relate to those extreme feelings?
Thank you, Ananda Bihari Prabhu, for your honesty. You do speak for most of us, I believe.
I'm asking for Bhima.
And Bhaktivinoda Thakur, he explains that love the love in our hearts, it is the same sentiment, either expressed towards the material energy or towards Krishna. And so the example he gives is of a balance or a scale. One side goes up, the other side will go down, and vice versa. And so when our attachment for the material nature is strong, then the sentiment, when that's high, then in the scale, then that affection for Radha and Krishna will be the lower point in the scale. Bhaktivinoda Thakur's point in giving this analogy, and it's very, very important, is to explain that it's not that sentiment needs to be shut down or closed off, but rather it needs to be redirected, repurposed. We need to recalibrate our hearts such that rather than being excited by the material nature, they will become enlivened in relation, the heart will be enlivened and moved in relation to Krishna. So that's an important point, because many spiritual traditions, they try to numb the heart, they try to become bereft of feeling, sentiment, desire, attachment. Bhaktivinoda Thakur and our acharyas, they say, no, don't do that. The nature of the soul is to love. It's just misdirected at this stage. So then to your question, how do we recalibrate? How do we redirect that sentiment of the heart and the emphatic refrain of our acharyas of the Bhagavatam is that it is by association. You put the iron into fire, it takes on the qualities of fire. So you associate with Krishna and Krishnanushilana, that which is connected with him, you will take on those attitudes or sentiments, not of becoming Krishna, but of becoming attached to Krishna. And so Chaitanya Mahaprabhu most wonderfully summarizes this for us as 5 most particularly powerful practices, beginning with sadhu sangha, because the sadhus have it. So anyone who has that sentiment, that love for Krishna in the heart, in their association, it can arise or it can be awakened in our hearts as well. And in their association, when we take to the holy name, we'll also get a sense of the joy, the bliss, the longing. And maybe we won't, so sometimes the first few times that we encounter the holy name, we'll really feel how powerful it is, maybe the first weeks or months. And then after some time, we become used to it, and we don't feel how profound its effect is anymore. The first few times that we were chanting, I see it all the time in Tuesday night kirtan, because there's so many people that come new, and they cry when they hear the holy name. They cry when they chant, and they come up afterwards and say, "Wow, I don't know what that was, but it's moved me. Something's happened inside." And then sometimes, yes, after sometimes we start to take it for granted. But sometimes, if we don't have that association for a little period, then we come back to it, we again get a sense of how powerful the holy name is and what we were missing in that time. Maybe we couldn't get to kirtan for a while, or maybe there was a period when our chanting was just, we couldn't sit and just have some proper chanting. And when we get back to it, we realize, wow, that is so wonderful. That is so profound. And the same with the Bhagavatam. So these things the holy name, the Bhagavatam, Vrindavan, and the deities, we will appreciate them more in the association of devotees who appreciate them. The real linchpin, actually, is the association of devotees who have that affection and appreciation and are experiencing Krishna in the chanting, the Bhagavatam. And then with their support and guidance and direction, we go deeper into the chanting, the Bhagavatam, the Dham, and its effect will be that our heart is recalibrated, changed, and our affections for Krishna deepen.
Hare Krishna.
Hare Krishna, Hare Purush Prabhu.
Your classes are so extraordinary. Anything we could say is like a candle to the sun. And of course, your answer to Ananda Vihari was also fantastic. If I could share one thing that Srila Prabhupada said when Shruti Kirti asked a similar question. Maybe you've heard this story before. Shruti Kirti was traveling with Srila Prabhupada for months. So he was with him every day all the time. And they would arrive at different cities. And when they'd get to the airport, devotees were crying and jumping up and down and throwing themselves on the ground and, in super ecstatic, excitement. And Shruti Kirti was just walking behind Prabhupada carrying the suitcase. You know this story, Srila? So Shruti Kirti was saying, well, gosh, I'm not in bliss or ecstasy, and all these devotees are like, weeping. And then that day when he was giving Prabhupada the massage, he told Prabhupada, I'm just a dried up raisin. I have no feeling. I'm just dull and like a stone, and everybody else is like in bliss. And he expected Prabhupada to preach to him or console him, and Prabhupada didn't say anything. So then Shruti Kirti went to go get Srila Prabhupada's prasadam to bring it in. And he was in the kitchen and he said to himself, I'm just going to jump out the window. I mean, I'm finished. I'm useless. I'm dead. I don't have anything. I'm just a fallen soul. And Prabhupada didn't say anything. So then he went back into Srila Prabhupada with the prasadam, and Prabhupada looked at him very tenderly and said, just do your service. Shruti Kirti said, Prabhupada just said to me, just do your service. Don't worry about ecstasy or bliss, that may or may not be there, but just do your service. So he had a very clear instruction, and he said all his, ready to commit suicide feelings just went away, and his feeling so helpless and fallen. And he said, okay, that's what I do. This is what Prabhupada wants me to do. Let me go make his lunch. Let me do this, and I don't have to worry about whether I'm in ecstasy or not. Does that answer your question, Ananda Bihari?
Yes, both of you, Prabhus, are
Well,
answering my
his was
question
better, but
perfectly.
I'm
And
just
dear devotees, please, if you have that feeling that Sri Prahlad was referring to, or that service attitude that Adipusha Prabhu is referring to, please raise your hand so I can hang out with you more and serve you.
Angel wants to talk.
Thank you, sir. Angel.
Well, I just have it from doing service when I'm out there feeding the poor and homeless 3 times a week. I feel it. So, what can I say? I hope that maybe catches on to you and others.
Thank you, Angel. Definitely, for sure.
We invite everyone to come.
Thank you. Min has a
Thank
raised
you.
hand,
Okay, Min.
and Anupam has a raised hand as well.
Thank you so much for such a great class. I really loved hearing about the role of poetry in the arts in our lineage, and how they have the potential to carry the expression of love for God that for the most of the times it's quite unreachable for me, actually. So it made me think about, I read something about brain studies a while ago, and sort of delineates the different areas of brain. And it was spoken, the book was speaking about how the arts, the poetry, the visual arts, the music and dance and such kind of lies between the limbic brain and the neocortex, where we experience emotions and memories versus reasonings. And languages and abstract thoughts and such. So I just think it's so cool that our forefathers like knew the function of the arts to really help us understand what lies really at the center of bhakti. I really liked, I thought it was interesting you speaking about the triggers. And I understand you're speaking in terms of in relation to the 5 different routes, which I'm not really experiencing whatsoever, but I do recognize the triggers at this point in my mundane life that inspires me to chant and read or maybe worship my deities. I was wondering if you what was the text by Rupa Goswami for you that first inspired you to maybe is there a text or a creative writing that is written that has given us that maybe triggers something in you, Sri Prahlad, in certain ways more towards Krishna? Just
Yeah,
curious.
thank you for that question. And I wanted to recommend a book to you.
Mhm.
And so I'm really happy that you asked, because when you started to frame your question, I thought, oh, I have to recommend this particular book. So, but before I do that, yes, so Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's guru is Ishvarapuri. His guru is Madhavendra Puri. I'm coming to the book recommendation, but I want to give a little more background as well. But Madhavendra Puri, he's described as the person who opened up the floodbanks of love. Of course, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu takes it forward, but Madhavendra Puri gives a seed. And there are descriptions in Chaitanya Mahaprabhu's biography where he, for example, goes to Mathura and he sings and he dances in the Keshava temple, ecstatically singing and dancing. And another Brahmana sees him and comes and joins him. And so the two of them are together in front of, usually in the temple, people are a bit formal, they're chanting mantras. But these two characters, Lord Chaitanya and this Brahmin, were dancing ecstatically, singing, crying, and afterwards, afterwards they sat together, and Chaitanya Mahaprabhu said, "Who are you?" And that Brahmana said, "I'm a disciple of Madhavendra Puri." And so Chaitanya Mahaprabhu offered obeisances to him. And the Brahmana said, "What are you doing? I'm a grihasta, you're a sannyasi." And Chaitanya said, "You are the god brother of my spiritual master." Why am I telling this story? There was an affinity between them. There was a mutual recognition in them, even though they didn't know one another. When the Brahmana saw Lord Chaitanya's dancing and chanting, he was drawn, impelled naturally to join him in that ecstatic expression of love. They were able to recognize each other in that sense. And the same thing happens a couple other times in the Chaitanya Charitamrita, where he meets somebody, they're ecstatically expressing love for Krishna through song, through dance, and they join one another, and then they have this conversation and discover their mutual relationship. So there was a prayer that Madhavendra Puri spoke as he was leaving this world. It's a poem, and it's a poem of lament and separation. To paraphrase, I don't remember the exact Sanskrit. When he spoke this prayer on his deathbed, one of his disciples who was serving him said, Guru Maharaj, don't lament. Just fix your mind in Brahman. Don't be afraid of death. And Madhavendra Puri said, get this person out of here. I don't want to die. Seeing his fate. He doesn't understand me. Govinda, he was the other servant. He was sent by Madhavendra Puri to serve Lord Chaitanya. So why am I telling you this? It's a prayer spoken by Radharani. She says, "O Lord of, O Krishna, O Lord of Mathura." Why is she addressing the Lord of Mathura? Because she's in Vrindavan, and Krishna's gone and become the Lord of Mathura. And so now that I used to read that prayer and say, why is she addressing the Lord of, like for a long time I couldn't understand. When I was small, I couldn't understand why that prayer. Why is he being addressed as the Lord of Mathura? It's Radharani who's calling to Krishna, who has become the Lord of Mathura, and so she's feeling intense separation. And so Madhavendra Puri is meditating on Krishna in this way as he's leaving this world. And it's a poem. And so I think my sense is Chaitanya Mahaprabhu takes this feeling of separation, poetry, and he explores it further, and he's seen it throughout the Bhagavatam, and then he's relishing other poems. Gita Govinda is another by Jayadev Goswami set of poems. And then Rupa Goswami picks it up and he writes poetry and he writes plays, as well as other more philosophical works, but he's also writing works that are aesthetic. It means that explain the aesthetics of love or the frameworks of love. Anyway, for a book recommendation that particularly moved me from Rupa's writing, aside from the Bhakti Rasamrita Sindhu, which is which Prabhupada has given a summary study of as the Nectar of Devotion. But aside from that, there's a book called Padyavali. And it's Rupa Goswami's collection of poems by other Vaishnava poets. Some are, and non-Vaishnava poets, secular poets as well. But he organizes them, like he curates them. These are the devotees' feelings of love for Krishna. These are Krishna's feelings of love for the devotee. This is, and he curates and organizes them such that even secular poems become poems about Krishna, because that's how Rupa Goswami is relishing them. And Indrajuna Maharaj quotes it very, very frequently at the end of his diary chapters. He will often give a verse. Very often it's one of these poems from Padyavali. And he would have me read Padyavali to him while he was taking prasadam, or very often in the evening when he was going to bed, like when he was lying as to fall asleep. I would read to him from Padyavali. And every poem, we would kind of just be left with a sense of wonder. And I would think to myself, because I was still quite young, 15, 16, and I would think, wow, why would I be interested in material love, mundane love, when there's this? That was like a reoccurring thought that was with me as I would read those poems from Padyavali. That's my recommendation.
Wow, thank you so much. Thank you so much. I have heard of it, and I've only heard a few pieces from it. But yeah, that was so great. I'm now so inspired and excited to read it. Thank you so much.
You may very well have it on the
We do
shelves
have it
behind you. Yeah. Okay. Well, there you are.
Thank you so much.
There you are. Okay, there was another hand.
Anupam Prabhu. Yeah,
Anupam
Anupam Prabhu,
Are you still here with us? Oh, there you
Yes, Hare Krishna. Please accept my obeisances. Thank you for the
are. Hare
class.
Krishna.
Always very clear and realized. I really appreciate your classes. I was actually just raising my hand in response to Ananda Bihari's request for people to raise their hands if they wanted to hang out with him. I
Great.
will,
Thank
Yeah.
you, Anupam.
but I will reflect some things. I'm very inspired, of course, by the Goswamis, and specifically, there's two things from the Sad Goswami Astakam, two aspects of their personalities that really moved me. One being that the Sankhya Purvaka, that they were very conscious about counting, and that yes, they were so immersed in the highest rasas and constantly experiencing the ultimate goal. They were swooning in the ocean of bhakti ras, but at the same time, they were chanting a prescribed number of rounds, doing a prescribed number of obeisances. These things. So it's so telling for us as sadhakas, and as we progress, that yes, this is the practice, and it's the prayojana, and it doesn't end. So I appreciated that, and that oftentimes there can be this sense that the counting and the prescribed this and prescribed that, it's just like a Vaidhi Bhakti thing, and eventually you're supposed to give it up if you really want to attain the highest levels. But no, the Goswamis themselves showed by example. And the other thing was that they were gentle amongst they were beloved amongst the gentle and the ruffians. And that's so cool to think that like someone like Rupa Goswami or Sanatana Goswami was like in with like, you know, the ruffians of the time, and they loved him, and they, you know, put their arm around him, or, you know, something like that. And it reminded me of the story of Adi Purush Prabhu, that when I first came around, then he was right next to the Hells Angels headquarters of New York City. And there was this one particular Hells Angel that really had it out for Adi. He might have been like the leader or something too. And he would kind of like, you know, torment him on occasion. And I remember he told me one time he threw a sandwich at his head and hit him in the head. Maybe Adi could tell more of the story, but Adi, being who he is, was very tolerant and loving and so disarming in that he's no ego really, and no false ego. And he's just happy to serve and try to engage others in service. And once some time went by and they kind of got to realize who they were dealing with, then they completely transformed and would help him, you know, move stuff into his place and out of his place, would help, you know, with the prasadam distribution. They wound up loving him. And so it was cool to see a practical example of that in action. And see it with Adi, of course. He's so disarming, so loving, and other devotees too that I could think of, where they have this quality of humility and tolerance and genuine love, you know, for Krishna and for others, to the point where you can't really get mad at them almost, because you could see that they don't have a stake in it in terms of their false ego. So so grateful to you, Sri Prahlad Prabhu, for also being an example of that, and for bringing out some of the beautiful aspects of Rupa Goswami's life, and grateful to Adi Prabhu and so many others who are also examples of these principles. Thank you.
Thank you,
Thank you,
Anupam
Anupam.
Prabhu. We are grateful to you, your example. And I love those reflections and appreciations. Shankya Purnamaka. And I cited something earlier. I'll say it again. Seva sadhaka rupena, siddha rupena grihate. That a principle of devotional service as taught by Rupa Goswami is that externally you perform your devotional service as regular sadhana. Internally, siddha rupena grihate. If there is some insight or realization as to one's relationship, that's kept internal, kept confidential. Srila Prabhupada did reveal ecstasies on occasion, but they were moments where his ecstasy overflowed. Otherwise, he kept it very personal. He didn't make a show of displaying his ecstasies, or revealing the esoteric side of his relationship with Krishna and so on. That's something that comes in time by the grace of Guru and Krishna, there will be a revelation of these things by the grace of the holy name, but it's not to be spoken of publicly or advertised that way. It's kept confidential. Thank you.
Adipusha Prabhu, did Anupam Prabhu narrate the story properly? Can you tell us about Kevin?
Well, it's true that they gradually became friendly and helpful. One day he told me, I like you. I don't like anybody. I don't know why I like you, but I like you. They have an interesting culture. And you think, okay, these are just guys with Harley Davidsons and skulls painted on them, but actually they had a real culture. One time he came, his girlfriend Jill had a hip replacement. Remember that? And then he came down the street and he was carrying her old hip bone. I said, Kevin, what are you going to do with that? He said, I'm going to make a lamp out of it, man. So he put the hip bone in his freezer. But one day I went to Rite Aid and they had this 2-for-1 Breyers ice cream thing. So I got two, but I gave one to him. I was coming down the block and I saw him. I said, here's some ice cream for you. So he took the ice cream up to put in his freezer, but there wasn't room for the ice cream and the hip bone in there. So the next time I came out of the building, he had the hip bone on the sidewalk and he was putting barbecue sauce on it, was feeding his girlfriend's hip bone to the dog, I said, Kevin, there's something wrong with that. There's something wrong with that. My God. But anyway, they, in spite of their interesting, ferociousness, I've seen them, smashing windshields, slashing tires, punching people out, on the street and stuff. But they, in the soul is in the heart is the soul, and Krishna works on people. A little prasad, a little seeing them and saying Hare Krishna. They love the picture of Lord Nrsingadev. So they had their particular culture, but Krishna has his ways of softening and reaching people. But they did help us move sofas and lend us their truck and help with prasad distribution. Eventually they stayed with us in the guest program. When they have their Kumbh Mela, there'll be like 100 Harley Davidsons out on 3rd Street here, all parked out there. And, some of them would stay with us, right with us in our apartment. So we became friendly by Krishna's grace. All glories to Srila Prabhupada.
Thank you.
Well, glories to you.
I saw Kevin recently at a shelter show here in Manhattan. He's a bouncer at a club. And he was asking about Adi. How's Adi doing? I want to come help with the food distribution. So Kevin totally transformed by Adi Purusha Prabhu.
By Krishna, not by me.
By Krishna, yes, by Krishna. Thank you. Shri Prahlad Prabhu, final instructions for us, please.
Final reflection is that we are inheritors of the legacy of Rupa Goswami, and to encourage all of us to try to understand him, to try to appreciate him as a person, his story, his contributions, the works that he's given. By doing so, just trying to understand the person and his works, and you will also connect with the flow of his mercy as well.
Thank you. I am inspired to just cease my nonsense. I'm in the same lineage as Rupa Goswami, so why am I into all this nonsense? Thank you, Shri Prahlad Prabhu. Okay, let's see. Min, would you like to recite the mantra, please?
Hey, Hare Krishna, Krishna Krishna, Hare Hare, Hare Rama, Rama Rama, Hare Hare. Thank you so much.
Thank you. Have a wonderful day. Come again tomorrow. Hare Krishna.